Pastor Ed here with Daily Devotions for Thursday, February the 1st, 2024. I can't believe it's already February. And everything, Ash Wednesday, and then of course Easter, everything is early this year. So I guess hold on to your seats. We're off and running. We've been talking about that gospel passage from last week, the healing stories of Jairus' daughter, and also the woman who had been bleeding for 12 years. Commentators often have pointed out that fear is a recurring theme in Mark's gospel, and in that gospel, fear and faith are in the kind of paired opposites, and oftentimes we fear things that we don't have to fear. The story is told about a fellow who had some hunting dogs. They were really great hunting dogs that he used to use when he would go on hunting pigs in the mountains. Feral pigs, they're not anything to be trifled with. But this dog owner shared that the dogs, as tough as they were deathly afraid of chickens. This other fellow couldn't believe it, so I asked him why. And he said, well, when the dogs were puppies, they lived around the chickens. The chickens at the time were much larger than the little puppies. And as a result, the chickens would bully the puppies and chase them all over the place. So the young puppies learned to fear the chickens. And because of that, even as strong hunting dogs, they still clung to their fear of chickens. And so we're often afraid of things that we need not be afraid of. Somebody once said, research has said that we are actually born with only two fears, the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. All the other fears are learned responses. So think about all the things that people are afraid of, all the phobias, acrophobia, claustrophobia, agoraphobia. We're afraid of a lot of things that we don't necessarily have to be afraid of. Someone once said that fear is the dark room where negatives are developed. And there's even a story, actually comes from his daughter Tina, Frank Sinatra's daughter Tina, about her father's fear, even to the end of his life. He had this unceasing drive to succeed and make money, apparently, even when as he aged and his health was at risk. In fact, towards the end, his health was in tatters. His life was mired actually in some financial wrangles. She says, but my father refused to stop giving concerts. I just got to keep earning more money, he said. Well, his performance, is sad to say, were becoming more and more uneven. Uncertain of his memory, he became dependent on teleprompters. When I saw him, again, this is his daughter Tina, at the Desert Inn in Las Vegas, he struggled through the show. He felt so sick at the end that he needed oxygen from a tank that he kept on hand. At another show, he forgot the lyrics to Second Time Around, a ballad that he had sung 1,000 times, so his adoring fans finished it for him. I couldn't bear to see Dad struggle. I remember all the times he repeated the old boxing maxim, you got to get out before you hit the mat. He wanted to retire at the top of his game, and I always thought that he would know when his time had come, but pushing 80, he lost track of when to quit. And after seeing one too many of these fiascos, I told him, Pop, you can stop now. You don't have to stay on the road. And with a stricken expression, he said, no, I got to earn more money. I have to make sure that everyone is taken care of. He had that fear that it wasn't enough. No matter how much he had, it was never enough, and we hear that all too often. Well, during his 1933 inaugural address, President Franklin Roosevelt sought to calm a troubled America in the throes of depression by saying the now famous words, there's nothing to fear but fear itself. Fear, of course, is the feeling of dread, alarm, panic, anxiety. Fear ranges from mild anxiety to panic attacks. The Psychiatric Association has categorized a whole variety of phobias, including the ones I mentioned earlier, acrophobia, claustrophobia, agoraphobia. But again, as I pointed out, the research shows that we've only born with two fears, the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. Everything else, all the other fears, are learned responses. And it takes on many forms: fear of success, fear of failure. I think that was probably true for Sinatra. Fear of rejection, fear of disease, fear of the future, fear of life after death. Fear produces, of course, negative effects. It paralyzes decision-making. It immobilizes action. It hinders prayer. It limits faith, restricts relationships, lowers productivity, jeopardizes health, stifles joy. And if all we have to do is go to Scripture and see that because of fear, Adam and Eve hid from God in the garden. Saul's army fled from Goliath. It took a little shepherd boy, David, to stand up to him, didn't it? Elijah, the prophet, suffered depression. Jonah ran away from his call to God. That didn't turn out so good for him. He got swallowed by the large fish and spit back out to finish his job. The man with the one talent, remember that in Jesus' parable in Matthew's gospel, the one talent who buried it in the ground because he was afraid. And of course, Christ's disciples deserted him at the cross. And yet time and time again, in a world of fear that we see even throughout the Bible, God speaks, "Do not fear, only believe." And that was Jesus' message to Jairus, wasn't it? Do not fear, only believe. I'm going to leave you with that thought today, and we'll pick it up, talk a little bit more about fear tomorrow. Until then, take care. Have a great day. Bye-bye.